You know who it is. All right. We had some issues at Martinsville this week. I won't call them issues, but topics of fucking controversy. Controversy. Wow, didn't say that word right. Well, anyways, Ben the NASCAR guy here. Boys, girls, it's a stage break. Let's have ourselves a great morning. We're going to talk about all things that went crazy at Martinsville, basically. Big topic will be, do the playoffs need to change? That'll be the main focus of today's show. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get right into it. Do the playoffs need to change? Yes, they do. Do I see that happening within the next 3 years? No. I think that NASCAR is absolutely committed to what they got right now. I don't think they're going to change it off one outcome. And, looking back at right when Harvick got eliminated, I went and looked at who had won championships since this has been the system, and it's basically see who got snubbed, who were the Harvicks of previous seasons. And there were more than maybe you'd want to see of a driver with not the most wins, quote, Harvick was clearly the best car all season, but looking at someone directly with the most wins saying this person deserved to win the championship is how I looked at it. And there were a couple where you seem to see an underdog win it, like Logano in 2018 was probably Truex's year. Kyle Busch's 2015 was another one because he only raced 26 races. Still a miraculous season, miraculous comeback, whatever you want to call it. But any other system didn't really fit the championship season build. So it's things like that piss people off, and I understand it wholeheartedly that you want, at the end of the day, the fairest way to settle a title without a lot of the gimmicky shit. And I can't, as gimmicky as it seems, I don't find it that way. I think it's interesting. I think it plays into sports. I see a lot of NASCAR isn't football, which is fucking absolutely true. But look at football adding playoff teams and trying to spice shit up and compensate for their lack of competition in certain areas. I don't know, they make up different rules too. So to say, I understand why NASCAR is trying to be, quote, football, because it's their biggest competitor. They want to try to create the most talk-worthy moments, and having Kevin Harvick be eliminated in the fashion that he did by, it wasn't a single point, when you look at what it actually was, because he had spun and crashed and got passed on the last corner, but for 499.75 laps, it came down to a point. And Harvick dumped Kyle Busch and tried to secure the point, and it was epic, and it was exactly what NASCAR wanted. And if you think that they're going to change it off one of the craziest finishes all year, they're not going to. And I've been wanting to bring this up all week. I've been making sure I remembered it. I watch races with people who don't watch a lot of races. The 2 or 3 friends that I watch NASCAR with only watch NASCAR because I have it on in front of them. So being part of that race with an exciting point battle, all 3 of us were invested. All 3 of us were invested in oh my God, is Harvick gonna make it? It was getting crazy. So even as a diehard fan, I enjoy what the playoffs bring right now. I don't dislike it. There are some tweaks 1,000% need to be made. 100%, absolutely. It is not perfect, but the system that we got going can be built on and worked on and perfected later in the years. But just because there's one season in the most unfathomable sports season that you could ever imagine throughout the entire world, that you didn't expect Kevin Harvick to get eliminated, is 2020, bro. Come on. It's one season where the true champion, quote, who you think would win the champion, isn't going to be there. But he could still win the race, still dominate, win his 10th race, say, hey, I deserve to be here, whatever. Whatever you want to do. I know he has every right to be upset, and I would expect him to. He probably felt like he was going to float to a championship race, but when you have a bad round of 8, man, it catches up to you. And if only, you could make a million excuses why Harvick didn't get to the next round. Imagine if they ran or if he just happened to pass Joey Logano at Kansas, not even if the package was different, a whole different conversation. But if he just managed to pass him and he got that win, smooth sailing, absolute smooth sailing. So poor Kevin Harvick. It really sucks, but it opens the door up for some new competitors. Like, imagine seeing Chase Elliott win a freaking championship. I mean, there were definitely some people that don't like Chase Elliott at all, which probably is because he's popular and it's like the Dale Jr. effect, whatever you want to think of it. But seeing a 24-year-old kid win a championship, isn't that not dope? Seeing someone's dreams be achieved, like, in the snap of a finger. Like, wouldn't have even been there if he didn't win last race. I mean, storybook stuff, man. Who else is involved? Logano, I'm not going to sit here. Like, I don't get excited when Joey Logano wins a race, but I will respect his second championship if it comes to him. I will be like, wow. I mean, I expected Joey Logano to win multiple, just based off his age and how people like Harvick are aging. And Truex is a super competitive driver. He's in his 40s, and Denny Hamlin is almost there. So the people that he's racing against now are going to retire, and like he's going to be left with Keselowski, Blaney, and Kyle Busch, and that's who he's going to be racing for championships. So I was expecting Joey Logano to have a couple under his belt. Maybe not this early in his career, but I expected Joey Logano to have a couple championships. Whether that comes this week or in years future, we shall see. I'm not going to pick Logano. Although he did win Phoenix, he has a very, very, very strong case. I can't do it. I can't sit here and say I'm going to root for Logano. No, I can't do that. I'd rather root for someone more fun, like Denny. Like, the mental battle I have right now between wanting Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott to win the championship is real. I want Chase to win for the Hendrick support. Like, Jimmy's retiring, and that's going to be sad as hell, and I don't know what direction I want to take my fandom, I guess you could say. I think I'm just going to support Hendrick as a whole, Chevy, like the underdogs, whoever is doing well in the race I'm watching that I would prefer to win the most is probably the direction I'm going to go. But seeing Hendrick win a championship in Jimmy's last race, like, that would be pretty sick. But Denny's running out of time, so I can't sit here and root against Denny Hamlin, who probably should have won it last year, and if Harvick didn't win it, isn't going to win it this year. I think Denny winning it kind of saves the conversation of does Harvick not being in the Final Four and like all that type of shit. So I think Hamlin winning is the best case scenario for NASCAR because it looks the least suspicious. If Chase comes in and wins, it's like, oh man, Chase had one clutch race, two clutch races if you count the championship race, but that's sports, baby. That shit happens. And if it seems ingenuine to you, then you're not familiar with sports. And if NASCAR isn't football or isn't anything else, then like look, things are different. It's not 1970 anymore. It's not the Winston Cup. There's not 5 competitive drivers. There's a slate of them that can take wins. Nearly not as many as you nearly want, and I don't think in 2020, there's as many, quote, race winners as there might have been in 2010. I mean, well, statistically, there probably is more back 10 years, but I'm saying, like, on a week-to-week basis, drivers that you can expect to be at the front. And it's really unfortunate. But if they want to start tweaking, if they as in NASCAR want to start tweaking the playoffs, I think cut it down from 16 to 12. I think they're the last 4 drivers in, like, I mean, unless it's your Kyle Busches, like, miraculously this year being that far, like Boyer or Austin Dillon had a decent playoffs this year, like, they're not winning championships. Those 13th to 16th that make it are not going to win the championship, so why have them there? And that's no disrespect to anyone who has been put in that scenario, but, like, did you win the championship? No, you probably struggled to make it through the first round. So it's just a waste of spots. Thin the herd. There's probably no more than, and I think 12 is a good number too, because if you look at the 3 big teams, that equals 12 cars, and you can assume that there's other teams definitely in the mix that are going to be competing. You could assume that at least 2 of those big teams between Gibbs, Stewart-Haas, Hendrick are going to make it. So there's 6, there's half of them, and you can fight for the other 6. I don't think there needs to be 16. I don't think a team needs all 4 of their cars in the playoffs, like Stewart-Haas does pretty frequently. I think there should be more competitiveness within it. You get what I'm saying? And definitely have the no more winning you're in. And looking back at how that has affected playoffs, there weren't as many instances as I might have thought there would have been of a driver winning and would have never made the playoffs without it. Like Chris Buescher at Pocono was one. Maybe Tony Stewart in his last year. You could argue that he might not have made the playoffs without the Sonoma win. Probably wouldn't have. Austin Dillon had a fantastic playoff, so I can't sit here and say that. I think he would have been, if he didn't win Texas, he would have been knocking on the door anyway. And he was strong as hell in this year's playoff, so I think he absolutely showed that he deserved to be there for sure. But like Biffle had a bid wicked late in his career. Paul Menard and Jamie McMurray, like those drivers that come in the playoffs 15th and leave 16th. Like, we don't need this new influx of drivers, even if it's good for someone like Matty D to get a playoff berth under his under his resume, and same with Chris Buescher as a playoff appearance. Like, but do they? Is it a warranted playoff appearance when they're a frickin' 16 seed? I mean, yeah, when a 16 seed in the NCAA is a tournament appearance, it's like a grain of salt because they probably played Duke and lost by 40 in the first round. Like, it seems like a waste to me. But maybe I'm the only one on there. I do think a lot of people would say that 16 drivers is way too freaking much. Maybe keep, instead of 10, or what do they do? The top 10 at the end of the quote regular season get a certain amount of playoff points. So like the winner of the regular season, or regular season champion, if you will get some playoff points. I say change that to the top 5. That means less points are out there. The person who finishes 10th isn't getting anything. The 1 through 5 are the drivers that you expect to be there at the end, so keep them maintaining the most if you think that they deserve the biggest shot at the championship. Keep the stages. I love stage racing. Keep the playoff points and everything, but don't reset. The only reset is right at the end of the first race of the playoffs. Where did they go this year? Darlington, Bristol, something like that. Let's say it was Darlington. I believe it was. Darlington. Points reset, let's say it's 5,000, whatever. You had all the stage points, all the playoff points accumulated in, and you have your 12 drivers complete for a championship. You can still have eliminations. That's fine, NASCAR. Go for that. Yeah, I feel like that's a talkable subject and makes it semi-interesting, but don't make it so harsh in the way of when a new round starts, the point reset screws some drivers. Like, specifically, you could argue, I mean, Harvick was Harvick had a good lead every single, like, you could argue Harvick choked in Martinsville, but I can't sit here and say he choked. I think you have a couple bad races late in any other point format, you might not win the championship. So what if it's 2013 and we're in the same scenario and Harvick finishes 3rd in the points, and we talk about how they had a shitty chase or shitty playoff races instead of they got screwed by a system NASCAR created. Like, it's give and take. There'd be complaints with both things, so it's a matter of what you like more and what seems more interesting and better for the future. I like the direction that we're going with the entertainment aspect of it, but it definitely needs to be fine-tuned in certain ways. But don't reset the points with this. If I'm creating a new playoff system, don't reset the points every single round. That one reset, that means you allow your Harvicks, Hamlins, Keselowskis of the world to be at the top, and if they want to stay at the top, perform for the 10 races. And the winning you're in for the next round is just screws drivers. I think that's so BS. Maybe if you win in a round, if they want to emphasize winning, you win in a round, you don't advance, but let's say a playoff win is 10 playoff points and a regular season win is 5 playoff points or something like that. If you want to incentivize winning without kind of making it bullshit, like, no one should have 2 bye weeks in the 3rd round of the playoffs, if you get what I'm saying. Joe Logano shouldn't have to sit back and relax for 2 of the most crucial races of the year because he got a dub last week. Like, first, 40th, and 40th would mean championship berth. That doesn't quite make sense to me. That can definitely be one thing that fixed, but at the end of the day, just most points through 10 races wins the championship. Nothing funky, nothing crazy. We've had plenty of great championship battles. Like the ones that I remember the most in my head were championship battles that ended with points, not highest finisher or basically winner of the race wins the championship. And a lot of the time, I don't think I have been unsatisfied with the champion with the way that things have gone since 2014. I haven't looked at this race and been like, that person definitely does not deserve to have a champion. Like it doesn't matter how you get him. Like Kevin Harvick deserves to have a championship under his name. Kyle Busch deserves to have 2, I'd say. Keselowski deserves to have a championship. Logano deserves to have a championship, and someone like Truex does. All these drivers who have won through this new system, I'd say, deserve to have a championship under their name regardless of the year they got it or the way they got it. All these drivers are Hall of Famers. They are the dominant drivers of today's era. So for them to just win a cup, no matter the year, no matter the format, how they got it, what shape, way, or form, I think they deserve it. All the drivers who have won since 2014 deserve to have a championship under their belt. You could argue that Harvick maybe deserves one more, and maybe Jimmy shouldn't have got that 7th, but we'll save that for a conversation never, because he absolutely did. But yeah, nothing too crazy with the playoff format I like to go for. 12 drivers, top 12 of the highest points advance, no winning you're in. Keep the playoff points and the stage points. Top 5 of the regular season gets playoffs points. The only reset is at the beginning of the playoffs. If NASCAR wants to eliminate people, I'll let them figure that out, but no winning you're ins. Strictly based off points. Most points through 10 races wins the championship. And it's as simple as that. And I feel like a lot of people would say that I see a lot of mixed opinions of I want the Winston Cup or I want this way we used to do the chase. I loved the 2007 to 2010 format, which was loosely off of this. 12 drivers. I believe they just did most points and have at it. And like this playoffs would work with, or like a old chase format. Especially in if they were to screw with shit, it'd be next year. Just, I don't know. We'll see how the offseason goes. I don't see any changes coming with the way that Martinsville went and the news stories they created, but we're going to have to see. I mean, the champion is going to be crazy. I don't think whoever wins the championship dictates a future decision at all, because I think they'll be satisfied with anything. I think if Chase Elliott wins the championship, NASCAR's drooling. I want Denny, for the sake of his career, the people that I just listed that say deserve a championship, Denny should be on that list. So I want Denny to win at the end of the day. I mean, my dad's a Chase fan. I love Hendrick. I'll be rooting for Chase. If it comes down to Chase versus Denny, though, I want Denny to win the race. 100%. If it comes down to Chase Logano, let's go Chase. Chase Keselowski, let's go Chase. But if Denny Hamlin is fighting for that win late in that race, I'm going to be pulling for Denny. 100%. The man, as my favorite driver, is walking away. So the way I'm going to have to root for things is people who deserve something. If I think Denny Hamlin deserves to have a championship under his resume, then I want him to win this race for sure. If Chase could find himself in this scenario for 15 more straight years, so I think Chase has got a couple championship bids under his belt. Sometimes you need to lose one to win one, quote Ryan Newman. But Ryan Newman ain't won one yet. But I think Chase will have plenty of opportunities in his future, so I won't be upset if Chase Elliott doesn't secure this bag, but I really want Denny to win this so bad, just for his future, and not his future, his career, and that's like definitely something that he puts on himself, because look at his peers and all the people that he races around are champions, and he's winning a shit ton of races, just not finishing it off. But speaking of Denny squeaking through, I mean, that whole debacle of Eric Jones not passing and people being pissed about it, like, if NASCAR is going to allow 4 teams per car owner, then completely just drew a blank. Regardless, fuck all the people that thought that was bullshit. Because what are you gonna expect them to do? They look like idiots if Eric Jones passes Denny Hamlin. They looked like idiots. If they would look like idiots if Denny Hamlin didn't make the championship 4 because Eric Jones passed him. Even if Eric got fired and is leaving after the team, you can't expect them to be like, oh, I mean, we're put in a position here where, like, no, they're clearly going to do whatever it takes to advance and try to win the championship no matter who is behind the wheel. And I think it was a ridiculous conversation, and if they did get penalized for it, I'm glad NASCAR acknowledged it, one, and said that they're not doing anything penalty-wise towards the 20 car. Even though, is it suspicious, though, in the most blatant scenario to not pass someone, to say don't pass him? Like, who in their right mind is sitting there thinking Eric Jones is going to make a move? Like, even NASCAR, the people who run NASCAR, the people who make the calls, Steve O'Donnell, is watching this race saying, there's no way the 20 car passes the 11 right now. You can't tell me otherwise either. I bet you could ask him yourself and he would say the same thing. Situationally made sense. You do things to help your teams. I remembered what I was going to say now. Why are there 4 teams per car? 4 cars per team if you're not allowed to help? That's a freaking larger fraction of the field than most other motorsports. So you're saying you have your teammate comes up to pass you and you own 4 of these things and you're going to screw yourself out of an opportunity to, like, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. That argument really bothered me. I saw that and I couldn't believe that people were like, penalize them. Let's add a 5th championship driver. Like, no, please don't. There is already enough BS that we have to deal with on a week-to-week basis. And adding something that would have been so fake, so scripted, like, it would have been a shitty championship race, honestly. It would have been a shitty event. That news would have just been like, who would have saw that and been like, that's cool? No, everyone would have thought it would have been bullshit. Anyone that isn't a NASCAR fan see 5th driver added to the championship race. Like, what if the fucking NFL just said, yeah, we're going to actually add a 3rd. We're going to give this team another try because they didn't win last game, so we're going to just let them try to play this team again to advance to the Super Bowl. I go, that's not how things work. You clearly got eliminated no matter the circumstances. Like, sorry, bro. Next year, give it a try. But that was probably the most bothersome part of this week. I had no issue with the outcome or how things transpired at Martinsville. The way the playoffs work don't upset me all that hard. I thought it was entertaining, and on to Phoenix, baby. Like I said, I'm gonna pick Denny this weekend. I'll get into all that championship shit and for all 3 series on the Friday show. Maybe record it Saturday after the truck series so we got some extra to talk about. But yeah, it's been a great episode. To those who listen, make sure you follow Ben the NASCAR Guy on Twitter. I appreciate y'all. Let me know who you think's gonna win the championship in the comments, and I hope y'all have a great day.